Imagine one small island controlling lands across Asia, Africa, America, and Oceania. At its peak, the British Empire ruled 25% of the Earth's land and people. How did the United Kingdom become the biggest empire in history? Part 1. The Birth of an Empire, 1500s, 1700s. In the 1500s, England was a small kingdom in Europe. Spain and Portugal were already exploring the world. But England wanted wealth, power, and trade routes. They began sending ships across the oceans. In 1607, England founded its first colony in Jamestown, America. Soon, British traders reached India, Africa, and the Caribbean. The British East India Company became extremely powerful, controlling trade in spices, silk, and tea. It was not just a company. It had its own army and ruled parts of India. Part 2. Conquering through war and trade, 1700s, 1800s. Britain didn't just explore. It fought and conquered. They defeated France and Spain in major wars and took their colonies. Britain gained Canada, India, Australia, large parts of Africa. Islands across the Caribbean. Trade ports in China. Britain had the strongest navy in the world, so no other country could stop its ships. They also controlled global trade, selling goods like cotton, tea, sugar, and opium. Part 3. The Industrial Revolution, Power. Boost in the 1800s, Britain became the world's first industrial superpower. Factories, machines, and railways made Britain rich. They needed raw materials, so they took land from other countries. Colonies were forced to send resources like gold, cotton, rubber, spices, oil. In return, Britain sold them manufactured goods. This made Britain extremely wealthy but hurt many local people. Part 4. The British Empire at its peak, 1900s. By 1914, the British Empire was the largest empire ever. It ruled India and Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. Most of Africa, Australia and New Zealand, Canada. Many islands worldwide. People used to say, the sun never sets on the British Empire. Because somewhere in the world, Britain always controlled land in daylight. About 1 out of every 4 people on Earth lived under British rule. Britain used several methods. Strong navy. The Royal Navy protected trade and defeated enemies. Trade and companies. British companies controlled economies of colonies. Local rulers. Britain often ruled through local kings and leaders, controlling them behind the scenes. Divide and rule. They divided ethnic and religious groups so they wouldn't unite and fight back. Part 6. The Fall of the Empire, 1900s. After World War I and World War II, Britain became weaker. Colonies wanted freedom. People protested, rebelled, and demanded independence. India became independent in 1947. African nations followed in the 1950s and 1960s. One by one, the empire collapsed. Today, the United Kingdom is no longer an empire, but its influence is still everywhere. Part 7. Britain's legacy today, even today. Britain AS Empire changed the world. English is a global language. Many countries use British style. Governments. Borders drawn by Britain still cause conflicts. Culture, sports, and laws spread worldwide. The British Empire shaped modern history more than almost any other empire. An outro, from a small island kingdom to the ruler of a quarter of the world, the British Empire changed history forever. But its rise also brought suffering, wars, and long-lasting problems. History remembers it as one of the most powerful and controversial empires ever. World War I and Britain spent huge money fighting wars. The country became weaker and poorer. Independence movements, people in colonies demanded freedom. Major independence, India and Pakistan, 1947, African nations, 1950s, 1960s, Caribbean nations, 1960s, 1980s. One by one, colonies became independent. By the late 1900s, the empire was mostly gone. In 1900, a tiny island nation controlled lands bigger than the moon's surface. The British Empire ruled 1/4 of Earth's land and people. How did this happen? And how did it fall? Bande 1. England was small but ambitious, 1500s. In the 1500s, England was not powerful. Spain and Portugal were rich from gold in America. France was strong in Europe. England wanted three things: wealth, trade routes, power and prestige, so England started sending explorers across the world. Famous explorers like Sir Francis Drake sailed around the world, attacking Spanish ships and stealing treasure. England began settling land in North America. Key colonies: Jamestown, 1607, Plymouth, 1620, the 13 American colonies. In the Caribbean, Britain took islands like Jamaica, Barbados, Bahamas. These islands made huge money from sugar plantations. Sadly, millions of enslaved Africans were forced to work there. This made Britain extremely rich. In 1600, Britain created the East India Company. At first, it was just a trading company, but it became one of the most powerful organizations in history. It had its own army, collected taxes, controlled cities, ruled millions of people. By the 1700s, the company controlled most of India. This is how Britain gained the jewel of the empire, India. 4. Wars that made Britain. The top empire. Britain fought many wars to steal land from other empires. In the 1800s, Britain became the first industrial superpower. Factories made clothes, weapons, ships, machines, but factories needed raw materials. So Britain took land to get cotton from India, rubber from Africa, gold and diamonds from South Africa, tea from Sri Lanka, oil from the Middle East. Colonies had to sell cheap resources to Britain and buy expensive British products. This made Britain insanely rich. Africa, Asia, and Australia get taken. Africa. In the late 1800s, Europe divided Africa. Britain took Egypt, Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, Sudan, many more. Australia and New Zealand. Britain sent settlers and prisoners there and claimed the land. China. Britain forced China to trade during the Opium Wars and took Hong Kong. The fall of the British Empire, World War I and II. Britain spent huge money fighting wars. The country became weaker and poorer. Independence movements. People in colonies demanded freedom. Major independence. India and Pakistan, 1947. African nations, 1950s, 1960s. Caribbean nations, 1960s, 1980s. One by one, colonies became independent. By the late 1900s, the empire was mostly gone. Britain used smart but harsh methods. They controlled kings and chiefs instead of ruling directly. They separated people by religion and ethnicity so they wouldn't unite. Rebellions were crushed with armies. Colonies depended on Britain for money and trade. The biggest reason Britain ruled so much land was the sea. Britain is an island, so it focused on ships instead of land armies. By the 1700s, Britain had the largest navy in the world. British ships could travel anywhere, protect trade, attack enemies, control oceans. Other countries couldn't reach their colonies without crossing British-controlled seas. This is why Britain could control places thousands of miles away like India and Australia.